Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all people round about, when they shall be in siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. Are the days of Zechariah warned of upon us? Join Stephen Benoon and host Bonnie Harvey for a discussion of Jerusalem, the Flashpoint.
Welcome everyone to another edition of Flashpoint, where will be the spark that ignites the world. This is going to be a very special broadcast because with us here, we not only have Stephen, but we also have his wife, Yana. And Yana is, she is trained in the medical field, and she's recently come up with a challenge in her own life that she would like to share, because I'm sure that many listeners either know of or have already in their own lives a very similar challenge. So welcome to the show, Yana and Stephen.
Hello, Bonnie, and thank you for having me on. And this is really a lot of pleasure for me to be here with you, because you are with my husband week by week, and I know that you guys wanted me on to talk about transhumanism, but exactly at the same time I found out that I have certain illness that is quite challenging, so I wasn't able to come on and speak about that, but I feel okay now. I feel better, so I'm happy to be here.
It is, I don't want it to be personal, but, just so the readers can understand and perhaps identify with you, is the illness of could it metastasize?
Well, I do not like to use the word cancer. I will not allow doctors to give me diagnosis or labels on me, because I found out working with people and doing a lot of research that once you have been put a label on, once there is a label on you, it's really difficult to take it off. What I look at when I talk about cancer, I think that it's an illness that everybody has inside of our bodies. Everybody has cancer cells forming daily in our bodies. And when immune system fails or toxins enter the body and immune system is not able to handle it, this is when the cells can grow and, form bigger tumors and metastasize. But everybody has the same challenge these days. And sadly, Bonnie, the statistics are that among every 3 women, 1 will have cancer, and among every 2 men, 1 will have cancer. So we have today a situation when this is touching everybody.
Yes, and it just depends upon the health of one's immune system. Is that correct?
Yes, it's very difficult because today we are getting bombarded by toxins from every side. It's not only our food that is being changed, because you're probably aware of Monsanto and GMO modification, which glyphosate is a carcinogen, known carcinogen. It's not only that food is poisoned, but our water is poisoned, our air is poisoned. We have chemtrails, they're poisoning air. They're not allowing sun rays to reach us, so we cannot form vitamin D in our bodies. And low levels of vitamin D are very much linked to cancer. So very much so, every single person on this planet today is affected, and sooner or later is going to have either cancer or Morgellons disease or some kind of autoimmune disorder. So we have been bombarded by toxins from every side. This is a war on humanity, and we are all dealing with this. And if you're not dealing with this today, you might deal with this tomorrow. So this is why I feel that this is so important to educate the public of what's going on and what to do to stop this, which I don't think we can fully stop it. I think only Yeshua can and his kingdom, but we can take few steps today to make us feel better or prevent the illness.
Yes, I'd like to go into a little bit about your medical background, Yana, so people understand that you're not, like the average non-medically trained person. Go through your medical studies and experience a little bit, please?
Well, in my country of former Czechoslovakia, I am trained as a nurse midwife, and the training in my country is quite, it's a heavy training. It's a very good training that we received. In my country back then was not possibility to be a nurse practitioner, because that kind of program didn't exist. It was, you're either a nurse or a doctor. So I got education of nurse, the highest education I could get at that time. So I was trained as a nurse, and I worked in a hospital. And of course, I worked in delivery room, and I dealt mostly with life. So with the pleasant things, because I was bringing babies to this world. So that was good. But yes, my background is as a nurse midwife. And when I came to this country, my degree wasn't good in this country. And I didn't have simply money to start over everything. So I auditioned for piano because I played piano since I was 4 years old. And in this country, they gave me a scholarship to study piano. So I went that route in United States. But while I was studying piano, I was taking classes on the side of anatomy, physiology, chemistry, and pre-med classes, basically, because I always wanted to be a doctor. So I was hoping that one day I will have all of my credits ready to go and be a doctor, to go to medical school. So this is why I have a lot of these classes. But then I found out a very hard way after my mother died after bypass surgery, and she was basically killed by the doctors. And then my son almost died from vaccines, from MMR vaccines in particular. I started to do research, and I found out what is inside of these vaccines and what is a bypass surgery, and on what they do with bypass and how these patients can be saved, how bypass can be avoided. And I decided not to go to medical school, but study naturopathic medicine on my own. And since then I was doing a really heavy research in naturopathic medicine. So
do you have a doctor of naturopathy?
No, I don't. However, I am going to pursue right now. I will go to master's program for naturopathic healing, and I really want to become a naturopathic doctor. So this is something that I'm still pursuing.
Well,
Yana was already enrolled in a school as a naturopathic doctor, but President Obama was kind enough to shut the school down before she could graduate.
Oh, no.
So she has done extensive studies already in that direction. So for her, it's pretty easy just to pick up and finish off with another college of the same protocol.
But I would just go, right now I'm a nurse. I am educated as a nurse, so I'm well educated in allopathic medicine, and I believed in it. This is the saying. I believed in vaccines. When my son was born, I was actively vaccinating him right on schedule, everything, and I believed in it until the day came where he received MMR vaccine, and suddenly my son started to show very strange symptoms. He started fever, he started high-pitched crying, and then he would sit for 3 days in the middle of living room not responding to me. And so I definitely could see that this is related to the vaccine, because I could see that this is not my son anymore. And I started to do research. I didn't sleep. I was researching day and night, and I found out what is inside of that vaccine. And I was outraged. I called pediatrician and I said, I'm very much outraged of what is inside vaccine and why I wasn't told what is inside of this vaccine and how it can affect my child. So from that point on, I started to do a really deep research in vaccines and what they contain. And I became an advocate for non-vaccinating the children. So when my daughter was born, we didn't vaccinate her. She didn't receive not even one vaccine. And she is a lot more healthier child than my son is. So
has your son recuperated from the screeching and the strange behavior?
Yes. What happened was that I would do research day and night. I wouldn't sleep. So I found so much information because I felt so guilty. I knew that this is related to vaccine I just allowed my son to have. And I found a naturopathic physician in Alabama who was practicing under the table because state of Alabama wouldn't allow naturopathic physicians to practice. But I found him by grace of God, and I took my son to him almost immediately. And he did very aggressive detox with my son, something that probably is not even approved today. No physician will do it, but my son took Edta Chelation at such a young age. It wasn't done intravenously, it was done by suppositories, but Edta Chelation it binds heavy metals that are injected and takes it out of the body. So I was giving him suppositories every other day, 250 milligrams.
Okay, wait just a minute. I know that many people would like to detox their bodies because of the heavy metals. People know that the chemtrails have aluminum, barium, strontium. I mean, just for openers, desiccated blood cells on from there. And if everyone here does a blood test on yourself, you will find elevated heavy metals. Okay, now slowly or even spell it. What can people do about the heavy metals and get right back to the narrative?
Okay, there is a lot of things people can do as far as diet as well. For example, if they incorporate chlorophyll in their diet daily and very often, chlorophyll will take heavy metals out, particularly aluminum. Also, there is a lot of homeopathic medicines that will detox heavy metals. There's homeopathic drops that my son was on them as well. And it's just a matter of researcher going to a naturopathic physician and he can advise with that and prescribe them. But I think that most wonderful detox is Edta Chelation. It is
Edta Chelation.
Chelation, yeah.
Okay, what is that?
Well, it has a very complicated chemical name. So if you remember capital letters EDTA, and you just Google it or look at it, okay? That's a chelating agent that basically it can be put inside of your vein and it will chelate out all the heavy metals out of your body.
And this is only available via venous injection?
No, it's available in oral form as well. However, it is much slower, and because it has to get through the GI tract, and now you have these juices and barrier of your own GI tract, so gastrointestinal tract. So the best way, I think, if you need to do it very fast, and you are an adult over 18 years old, you need to go to a physician that does chelation therapy, EDTA chelation therapy, and ask him that you would like to detox from heavy metals. And they most likely will be happy to prescribe you this particular treatment. And there are several physicians in every city that already do that, Edta chelation. Allopathic doctors do not want to advertise this because EDTA is also an excellent therapy for heart disease, high blood pressure, and clogged arteries. People who are on bypass waiting list and who went to EDTA chelation have saved their life and had to cancel the surgery because after several applications of EDTA, their arteries were so clean as if they were 10-year-old children.
Why, my soul? Yeah. Okay. Do you have a list of recommended naturopathic physicians throughout this country?
I don't, but I can certainly compile the list. I know of one in Fort Myers, Florida, and I know of one here in Orlando, Florida. In fact, one of our listeners of Israeli News Live, I met him in a clinic. I did not go myself for chelation. I'm going for a DMSO IV vitamin C therapy, which I call the MSO Potentiation Therapy for cancer. But I met him there, and he was about to go to bypass surgery, but instead listening to one of my broadcast, but I spoke about EDTA. He decided to seek out a doctor, and I met him there, and he was on his 4th treatment, and he was already describing to me how much clearer he can think, how he's taking up his old hobbies from youth that he already didn't even continue because he had foggy thinking, from clogged arteries.
Oh, my soul.
You see, and now he's saying he's about to cancel his bypass surgery. And
that's fabulous.
Yeah.
If you will send me a list, I will email it to everybody who emails me asking for the list. And my email is bonnielynharvey@gmail.com. LYNNBONNIE Harvey, easy one, EY. And when Yana mails me this list, I mean, we're in the Northwest. We have a lot of listeners here in the Northwest. I know that people will want this list, Yana. So please get that to me included, because I take high blood pressure pills. It runs in my family.
Right. Well, Sister EDTA chelation will help you. It will lower blood pressure and completely clean out your arteries. Now, you see, when people go for bypass surgery, they have to take veins from the legs, and cut your arteries around the heart and exchange it. But people don't understand that they are treating a small portion of the problem. Because if you have a clogged arteries around your heart, you have them all over your body, even in the brain. They're everywhere.
Yes.
Okay. So EDTA will safely take it away from every single artery and vein. And think about it like a liquid plumber. It's a liquid plumber. EDTA is a liquid plumber. Okay. It will.
Oh, that's funny, Yana.
Yeah, it will kind of like nicely, safely take away all of this plaque and clean your arteries, and now you will have a restored blood pressure and oxygenation to your heart. And people are canceling bypass surgeries, and of course, allopathic doctors, cardiologists, they don't like it because bypass surgery is a major money maker. Every single doctor who does bypass surgery, after every bypass, he goes and buys a new car for cash. Okay, so they want this. They want this business. So EDTA is, in a way, because EDTA is cheap. It cannot be patented by pharma. So they are against it. They don't want to let people know that there is an easy fix to clogged arteries. But there is.
Will you please? We are. I'll let you know. We are desperate that list. So I cannot wait till you send it to me.
Sure.
Because I don't know if everybody here can go to Fort Myers, Florida, but certainly go to Salem or Seattle or be someplace. Even I know I even get mails from people in foreign countries. They say they load this on their phones, and when they drive, and this one was from South Africa, said I listened to you. So this is. It has a further field than just my house and your house. That was interesting that under the Obama administration, the School of Naturopathy was closed. Was this one of his policies to enable pharma?
I'm not sure. I just started at school at the time, and it was closed within like 6 months. So I didn't really care. So it's something that they are just really FDA, they're raiding offices of physicians, and something they found that the school didn't do right. So I didn't really care because I would like to, me personally, I would like to enter an actual day program for naturopathic physician. This has been my dream my entire life, to be actual physician. But when I found out how doctors are, well, I don't want, you see, Bonnie, you are from a doctor family.
I know. And being my daughter's a doctor, my husband's a doctor, they believe in what they're doing.
Right.
They are so educated in the system. And of course, they go to schools where the physicians care so much.
Right.
They care.
Right.
They don't know the sleight of hand that is going on behind their backs.
Well, you have to go to history of how big pharma entered medical field and how they put their agents there, and they completely threw out any naturopathic treatment. And now they're using petroleum drugs. They're made out of oil. All the drugs that the doctors prescribe are made out of oil. Okay, they're petroleum drugs, and they're very good at masking symptoms, but they do not address the root cause of the disease. For example, you are on a pill for high blood pressure, and it probably takes your pressure down, not even successfully. Am I correct? You still have a problem. It still goes up, doesn't it, Bonnie? So the thing is that why don't they go for the root cause of your problem? What is causing your pressure to go up? And if it's a clogged artery, why don't we unclog it, right? Why don't we put some liquid plumber in there, unclog that artery so the blood flow can be restored, and now you don't have suddenly blood pressure and you feel again yourself. So you see, it's extremely easy to fix a people's problem, but when money is involved and patents are involved and big pharma don't want healthy people. And I will tell you one example how they don't want healthy people. For example, let's go back to cancer. They are using chemotherapy which targets cancer cells, but it also targets healthy cells and healthy immune system cells. So along with the sick cells, the healthy cells are being targeted, and people are losing immunity. Their DNA is changed, and you have a host of side effects with chemotherapy. Plus, after certain time passes, the cancer wasn't completely killed and it's coming back, and it's coming back more aggressive than it was before. Okay, so for example, there is a therapy called DMSO, Potentiation Therapy, and you can still use chemotherapy, but you use only 1/10 of a chemo agent. For example, if you use 15 milligrams of a chemotherapeutic agent, with a DMSO potentiation therapy, use only 200 grams of chemotherapy. You mix it with DMSO, which is a natural substance from a tree, from a sap of a tree. And the DMSO has ability to bind this little bit of chemotherapy into it and target only cancer cell. And cancer cells are destroyed while all the healthy cells are intact. And patients have no side effects and they're recovering very beautifully. And one doctor in Georgia was using DMSO potentiation therapy, and he was even using, of course, chemotherapy, but in very small doses, bound onto DMSO, and he targeted only the cancer cells. Well, what did pharma do? FDA agents came, they raided his office, and they locked him up. Why? He did use chemo, so why? Because he was making people healthy and he was killing cancer, and this is what they don't want. Because if people, there is a cure for cancer, Bonnie. There is a universal cure for cancer.
I believe that, Yana.
But they will not allow it because it would be in a way of their profits. That's one thing. It's about money and huge billion-dollar profits, because one chemo is between $50,000 to $100,000. Okay, in profits, but it's also more sinister than that, I believe. I believe that it's part of the depopulation. They are putting in us the disease with toxins they're releasing into our food, water, and air, and then they have their problem solution is chemotherapy that is basically killing you. So it's a system that is failing. It doesn't work, and it's archaic system. It's horrible. All right. We have at our disposal right now, we could eradicate cancer from this planet. And I don't know how much time I have, but I can tell, I have maybe 1 minute. My husband is showing me you have 1 minute.
Yeah, about a minute.
Yeah, in 1 minute, I won't be able to explain you, but there is an injection called Gcmaf. And now these are very complicated chemical names that are very hard to even pronounce. So if I say Gcmaf, I am talking about a protein that our own body makes that has been killed in our body by nagalase that they released into vaccines, okay? And all of us got vaccines, so we all have nagalase inside of us. And Gcmaf injection can cure cancer within 2-3 months. Any kind of cancer, doesn't matter what kind of cancer it is, without side effects, and completely restore you to complete health. However, there was one lab that was able to sell these injections, and they raided the office. They took the CEO inside. They took him to jail, interrogated 300 scientists, and they closed them up and made these completely unavailable to American public. So that's where we stand in the United States of America today.
And that is the healthcare in America today, yes. And there was a whole rash of naturopathic physicians being killed, yes. I think, about 40 or 50 of them, or maybe up to 60 of them.
Yes. And if any of you is interested in Gcmaf injection, it goes with the name Dr. Bradstreet. He was a doctor from Georgia who was giving these injections to cancer patients and autistic children, and he had 80% success rate, and they killed him. He was found in Hudson River. They kind of signed it off as a suicide.
Yes.
And then 8 of his other colleagues they were with him working on Gcmaf, and they were ordering it from European labs and giving it to their patients. All of them were killed one by one. So this is a reality that we are experiencing in the United States. And what I'm doing now, since I don't have access to Gcmaf, however, I am trying to find where I can get it. There is one place in Japan and maybe Israel I would like Gcmaf, and if I cannot get it, then I am, of course, right now on the Msl Potentiation Therapy.
Oh, okay, everyone stand by. We're going to go into a break.
Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all people round about, when they shall be in siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. Are the days of Zechariah warned of upon us? Join Stephen Benoon and host Bonnie Harvey for a discussion of Jerusalem, the flashpoint.
Welcome back, everyone, to the second half. Again, with me is Yana Ben-Noon and Stephen Ben-Noon. Yana's talking about the autism cancer, her own therapies, her own experience, her own education. So, would you, before we get started into that, you mentioned previously MMR really damaged your son only through, was it?
Edta Chelation.
Yes, only was that through Gcmaf therapy?
No, actually, at that time, Gcmaf wasn't available in the United States. My son is right now 13 years old, but it was 12 years ago. But I mentioned it was Edta Chelation therapy that my naturopath has prescribed for my son, a 1-year-old son. And since he couldn't inject it in a vein, he prescribed it in a form of a suppository. So there is a suppository, Edta suppository. It's called detoxamine. For those who cannot afford Edta Chelation, it costs about $100 per treatment. And when you have a heavily clogged arteries, you will need between 20 to 40 treatments. So it can get a little expensive, but when you compare it with $100,000, bypass surgery, it's actually not that expensive.
Yes.
But anyway, it was Edta Chelation suppositories that I was giving my son every other night. Now, the thing with Edta is that it takes not only heavy metals out, it takes everything out, and sometimes even good stuff out of you. So that's the only kind of I wouldn't say bad side effect, because it's easily fixed. So every Edta physician tells you that after your treatment next morning, all you have to do is take a very strong vitamin mineral supplement. And in those clinics, they have those supplements formulated for Edta therapy, and they will give it to you. So you can just take every morning very strong minerals and supplements, and you are perfectly fine. You have no side effects. Edta is extremely non-toxic, safe way of removing heavy metals. Now, with my son, it proved to be so effective that within a few weeks, my son was back and healthy and back to cognition again. And the doctor explained to me the reason that my son was so easily fixed was that I responded very fast. Most mothers wait years, and they go to the same doctors that injured their children, and they're trying to find solutions within the system, and there is no solution. Well, I was educated as a nurse, but I knew right away that what's happening to my son is definitely connected to this vaccine. I knew that something horrible has happened in my son's body. So I acted immediately.
What makes the MMR so, of all the vaccines, that seems to be the real bugaboo. What is in there that makes it so damaging to small children or anyone?
Okay. Back then, MMR contained thimerosal, and right now they're telling you that it's thimerosal free, that they removed thimerosal, which is mercury. Now, that's a lie. It is not thimerosal free vaccine. They removed most of thimerosal, but they still kept miniature amount of thimerosal in a vaccine. Now, when they are in a miniature amount, they are not telling you, because because miniature amounts don't require a label. Okay, that's a law. If something is in miniature amount, they don't even have to say it's in there. So it still contains thimerosal. The problem with thimerosal is that it is not safe even in miniature amounts, meaning that mercury will hurt you in any amount, big or small or miniature.
Yeah, that's a major toxin. I have read that even if they did remove most of mercury, they replaced it with aluminum. So now they can say it's mercury-free, thimerosal-free, but it has aluminum.
Yes, and this is exactly where I was going. That they actually put aluminum in it. They replaced it with aluminum, but not only aluminum. What they did, you see, because when you ingest aluminum, it goes through your GI tract, and like let's say you eat something heavy in aluminum, okay? It goes through your GI tract, and your GI tract is able to remove it through your stool and urine, and you only absorb about 1%. But when it's injected inside of your body, it goes right to your bloodstream, and now your GI tract cannot remove it. So 100% of it can go in. But what they did, and that's why I call it a very smart design of the evil. You see, evil is extremely smart. Evil knows our makeup, our chemical and physiological makeup. And what they did, they put inside of MMR glyphosate. Now, when they mix glyphosate with aluminum, these two substances are partners in crime. They work synergistically and they work together, and glyphosate made aluminum 100 more times absorbable and deadly. So glyphosate can get through the blood-brain barrier, and now glyphosate binds aluminum and it can take it to the brain of a child. And of course, this is why we are seeing after MMR so many autistic children, and it's an inflammation of the brain. And it damages your gut. So it's an inflammation of the gut, and microbes are like flourishing in autistic gut. Okay, and then of course Dr. Bradstreet have connected MMR vaccine to nagalase. He found out that they have been putting nagalase inside of the vaccines. And what is a nagalase? Well, nagalase is a substance that cancer cells and viruses give out. So if somebody has a cancer, or somebody has HIV virus or Epstein-Barr virus, they have a lot of nagalase in their blood, because these viruses and cancer is producing nagalase. And what is nagalase doing is deactivating protein called Gcmaf. Now, the Gcmaf protein is made by our lymphocytes, T and B lymphocytes, and it's an activator of our macrophages. Now, macrophages are a huge white blood cells that God gave us for us. This is our army. These are our soldiers that are gladly dying for our own body. Okay, they will die for us. They will kill anything. And we need Gcmaf made by lymphocytes to activate the macrophages. So think of Gcmaf as a general. These are war generals who are giving macrophages an order, go and kill. Now, if macrophages don't have the generals to tell them go and kill, our macrophages are just going to be happy zombies. They're doing nothing. Okay, so basically, this is what's happening in our bodies. This is why we have cancer. This is why we have viruses. We have been injected by nagalase through vaccines and Gcmaf injections. This is what we are in the need of to activate our own immune system, activate our own macrophages that God already equipped us with. And this is what Dr. Bradstreet in Georgia was finding out, and he was ordering these Gcmaf injections from Europe, but he was, of course, raided and harassed and then eventually killed. And a lot of people were getting very good results. They were curing cancer, stage 4 cancers, very successfully. Doctor was curing autism. The autistic children were coming back to their mothers. Can you imagine if you have an autistic child and after a few Gcmaf injections, your child is coming back to you?
You know, this whole area, I have 3 young grandchildren, and this whole area is just so distressing me that I pray about it every night, Yana. Donna.
Yeah.
I just this is too horrific. You know, almost all you can do is pray about it. You know, at this point, if they won't listen, that's how horrific it is. I cannot imagine. You know, getting my grandchildren one day and they won't look me in the eye and they just stare at the wall or engage in repetitive behavior,
Right.
or are just emotionally, spiritually not there.
You know, I was interviewing a German scientist by name Harold Kautz-Vella. Now, I got a lot of, a lot of problems after interviewing him because people didn't like me interviewing him because he's not a Christian. He's definitely, I don't know what he is. I wasn't focusing on his religion, but his knowledge.
You know, it's amazing how short-sighted people are on that on that point. You know,
Yeah.
I used to run a regional at Sukkot, and one year we had a wonderful Jewish speaker, and we were actually threatened with violence for having a non-believer in Jesus Yeshua. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I had to call the police.
You know, the irony of it was that when I was interviewing him and he was so happy to come to Prague from Germany, he traveled to see us and so he can give us interview. And after interview, we spent about 4 hours with Steve talking to him about Yeshua.
Yes.
But people didn't look at that way. Okay, they were saying, oh, he's still calling Earth Mother Earth and all that. You know, I understand, but I was interested in his knowledge of autism at the time.
Which is almost, unfindable outside of Harold Krautzweiler. I mean,
Yes.
who has that education, that keen scientific brain, that experience?
Well, he had a direct experience with a black goo. He held it in his hand. And I was interested just for the sake of information. I wanted our listeners to be informed of how evil is, how bad evil is.
Yes.
But we talked about autism, and I have never published his interview after people gave me hard time. So
I would do it.
I have about 2 interviews unpublished still. But he was talking about autism, and he said that this is evil who is trying to steal the souls of our children.
Exactly. Because if all they can do is steal, is look at the wall, when they're, 12, 13, 14, they cannot be led to Jesus Yeshua.
Yes, exactly. And then he was saying to me, and I never published this, maybe one day I will, but he was saying that they had a group of autistic children and they told them to draw pictures and they would draw snakes. And says they started drawing snakes and then they made them toys that were snake toys, and they gave in front of them a lot of different kinds of toys, and the autistic children would always reach for the snake toys, and they were very fascinated with snakes.
Wow.
And he said that he believes that they are stealing the souls of our children, and the evil is trying to live within these children through, to get into their bodies. It's like a living snakes inside of them.
Yes.
Yes.
In the 80s, the probably basically CIA funded is reported to have funded research into finding the seat of the soul in the brain so they could control it.
Yes, exactly.
And they could not find it. Father, he hid it so well, they could not find it. So they had to invent their ways to get around the presence of the soul in mankind.
Yeah, and that's why I believe that what they're doing, these vaccines are experimental. They're highly experimental, and they're experimenting with our children and adults. I mean, I hate to say it's only children. It's also adults through flu vaccines. And
absolutely. The CDC has announced that the largest unvaccinated, under-vaccinated group of people in America are the adults.
Yes, and now they're targeting the adults. So, but I believe they're experimental and that they're experimenting with the souls of our children and trying to create a certain type of children that are easily programmable for repetitive behaviors. And, autistic children don't complain about the system, right? They just...
Yes, they're the perfect slave for the final beast empire.
Yes, and this is what Harold Kautz-Vella was telling me on an interview, and I was amazed, and I did not dare to publish a lot of other things, but I didn't publish it because when he speaks, his speech is definitely not Christian, and I was getting a lot of problems. So I just said, well, maybe at this time, this body of Christ is not ready for this kind of information. So, but yes, Bonnie, this is very serious what's happening. And I know you have to go into Lolo politics with my husband. So I would like to quickly talk about therapy I'm doing.
Oh, please.
Maybe it can help someone. And I'm not saying I wasn't officially diagnosed with cancer because I won't allow doctors to put this label on me. They told me they have a high suspicion based on my tests, and they would like to do biopsy to make it 100%, make it 100% diagnosis. And I said I will not allow a biopsy and make it at this time, because I was going into my own therapies that I knew are very effective. And then I will go for a imaging test to see if my therapy is working. So I have found physicians that work with me, and they know what I'm doing, and they are agreeing to work with me. But I'm doing the Msl Initiation Therapy right now, which takes vitamin C in super mega doses mixed with the MSO substance, which the MSO binds the vitamin C and takes it and targets atypical cells, which cancer cells or any atypical cells. And it works just like chemotherapy. It is substitution for chemotherapy, and it's 100% natural with zero side effects and 100% non-toxic. So we started this about 3 weeks ago, and I was at I went rapidly very much down in my health suddenly. But about past 3 days, I'm starting to feel better, and I can feel that something is working, that this therapy is working. I just feel it. I got more energy and less pain. So something is definitely happening. So I'm very excited. And if I find out that this works, I'm going to publish it in Israeli News Live. I'll write about it in more detail.
Wonderful. Well, our prayers are with you, Yana. Thank you so much for a very stimulating conversation. We learned a lot. Thank you for bringing this to the forefront. And if you could just send me, if you don't want to publish Harold's interviews, if you could just send to me, I would be very interested in listening.
Yes, I'm going to send you a private interview.
Thank you.
So you can have access,
And if you could also send me a compilation of people, perhaps throughout the country, that, if people could travel, even 6, 7, 8 hours, and stay overnight, get the kind of therapy that would be helpful to their bodies instead of harmful, then I know that they would want that information. So please do send me, something of a compilation where we access the good.
I will, Bonnie, and I don't think you have to travel 6 hours, because more and more doctors are believing in this. So, okay, thank you for having me on, and you have a great evening.
Blessings to you, Yana.
Thanks.
How do you top an interview like that?
How do you? I mean, what a bright lady! What a fabulous contribution. We're just beset on all sides, Stephen, on all sides. So people are desperate.
They are, and the thing is there's so many doctors out there that are similar to the way Yana spoke about today, and I've learned a lot myself because I listen to these things on a regular basis. And I know that Yana, she's been educating her entire life. And like she said, when she was in college, she because she knew that she wanted to go and be a regular doctor, a regular physician, she had taken all those other extra courses as well. And at one point, before our daughter came along, she had already been accepted at the medical school in Mobile, Alabama, and was going to be able to go through a rapid course because she has that much education already in there. So they could actually put her in within a year and a half or something of that age there. But she wasn't able because our daughter came along. So that was kind of depressing there. So, but at any rate, she is very, very intelligent, and she doesn't like me to ever say that, but that's all right.
If she practiced medicine like this, they would take her license away anyway, Stephen, and they would, I wanted to say disbar, but they would take away her medical license or kill her. So, we have to believe that Father knows what he's doing. So we only have about 4.5, 5 minutes here, brother.
That's okay.
I know here in America, the Day of Rage did not start yesterday, but that only makes me more concerned about the extreme position that our shadow government, our own shadow government here in the West is under, because the dollar is falling falling quickly, and they need to not be blamed for it. So, please be ready on a moment's notice, people, for our world change here in America. And I don't know what it's from. I don't know. I just know that they're not able to get some diversion like a war or something that would hide the crimes that have perpetrated by the Western Central bankers. So that being said, what red lights do you see, Stephen?
Well, it's interesting because I was doing a very in-depth study on on the Chaldeans recently, and I put together for television. It'll actually air this coming Saturday night on DirecTV channel 367. I think it's 9 p.m. Eastern time is when we broadcast. But I was going into the Chaldeans in Babylon, and of course I mentioned Dudamon in the broadcast because what I do see coming, Bonnie, is Russia, and of course, as Jeremiah brings out, it's that host of nations from the north that will use their arrows. And oddly enough, I found an article that the U.S. calls nuclear weapons that go missing, like they had one that fell off of a plane wing and ended up in the ocean. They call them broken arrows. And of course, this is exactly the way Jeremiah speaks about that would come against the nation, the U.S. there, when this northern empire, along with its host of nations, come against Babylon. And of course, I broke it down. I went deeper into it because I really took the Hebrew and there's like a compound fulfillment in all these prophecies. And I was using Habakkuk, the prophet Habakkuk, specifically in chapter 1, because Habakkuk also, he specifically speaks about the Chaldeans. And the Chaldeans basically is a military arm of Mystery Babylon in modern days, as it was during the times of King Nebuchadnezzar. We see this, if you really look closely, it's always that military might. And it almost makes me wonder, Bonnie, if NATO, not every country of NATO, but NATO in itself, those that are standing behind the United States may become victim to this particular disaster that's going to befall our own country as well. So I could see easily Germany, Britain, France, and these other nations that if they try to help the U.S. when this issue comes down between Russia and the U.S. that they're going to also be catching a lot of these missiles. And I could see why too, because if you think about it, Bonnie, the U.S. is in practically every one of these countries. We have military bases. So whether it be Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, and now Finland's going to be doing a major, massive military drills in Finland. Again, another nation on Russia's border. This is coming to a head rapidly. And of course, North Korea could be that very place that causes it all. So,
are you concerned about Trump being in the Far East now for 11 days?
Been saying it over and over and over because even though he's not going to go quote unquote to the demilitarized zone, and I can guarantee you one thing: if he did, I'm sure that Kim Jong-un would have himself a sniper there just to try to take him out when he did. But as we said before, you never know when someone's going to cause an accident and make it look like it's North Korea. And now they're coming out saying that they're going to have to do a ground invasion to take out all of his nukes.
Isn't that crazy? I had a dream the other night that Pence was president and that Trump was, I don't know what happened to him. Nobody knew. He just wasn't in the picture. So, I hate to say that. I wonder if that's not the triggering factor with Russia. And if you go through Jeremiah 50:51, we are invaded for the north. Look at the earth as a ball. You go straight through Canada. Well, Russia sits right on the North Pole, and then Siberia is about 3 steps away from there. So I do believe it's Russia, but Trump is going to meet with Putin on this tour, I have read. So I have a hard time thinking that while Trump is in power, that this would happen. It could well happen as soon as Russia realizes that deep state, which, as you say, is trying to take over the world. They want to knock off country after country, steal their resources and enslave people. And
Yes.
Russia is getting really, really concerned. But I think Trump there, I don't see it happening without Trump. Yeah, they would do it, I think, in a heartbeat and just say, okay, it's us versus the deep state, and we're not going to do it. You know, Stephen, I'll have to edit this down. We're already too long. Thank you so much coming on and giving us your brief words. And how can people donate to you and Yana and all that you do and all that you're undergoing?
Well, there's two different ways we're doing right now. We do have, of course, our website, IsraeliNewsLive.org, where you can donate online. But we also started a GoFundMe for Yana's medical needs because we're not insured in America. And even if we were, they will not cover natural treatments there. So we started a GoFundMe. It's on our Facebook page there.
I see. Okay. So, it's GoFundMe.com. Is that correct?
Actually, I don't know how it would work there, but if you go to Israeli News Live on Facebook, you'll find it posted.
Okay, go right there. GoFundMe. Please help Yana and Stephen. If you have enjoyed this broadcast, please help Yana and Stephen. Thank you so much, brother, and we shall see you next week. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.